Few ideas lend themselves more to cliché than the concept of home. Excuse me. I knew there was something wrong. Home is where the heart is. A house does not make a home, or a home is wherever you hang your hat. Home is a handy concept for cogent quips. One of the most famous is from Robert Frost. Home is the place where, when you have to go there, they have to take you in. I guess that's mostly true, except, of course, if you were kicked out of your home for being gay and ordered never to return. The whole idea of home invokes images of comfort and a sense of belonging. Any place where you have to play some role or act pleasant when you don't feel pleasant isn't a home. A home is where you are, who you are, and there is no pressure for you to be anyone else. Home also often has a spiritual component, for home is where values are taught, or at least ought to be. And home is where faith is learned. It seems to me, however, that the whole concept of home is far more deeply rooted in what we call religion. It's true that as societies developed, from agrarian to industrial to knowledge-based, religion became less important as people became less obedient to traditional religious leaders and institutions. That's according to a recent report from the Public Religion Research Institute, an organization that studies political issues as they relate to religious values. Yet everywhere you look, religions and religious controversies are shaping our world. Religion is held up by some as the key solution to various social ills, such as poverty and racial tension. For others, religion is a major part of the problem. Religion generates critiques of inequality and capitalism, while others invoke it to celebrate the free market and individual wealth. Religion shapes views on policy issues as diverse as same-sex marriage, climate change, and government-sponsored healthcare. Religion juxtaposes faith and modern science, from challenges to evolution to debates on stem cell research. Religion likewise factors prominently in various military conflicts around the globe and in the long-running debates over the proper relationship between religion and the state. Even though people say, when asked, that they are generally less reliant on religion than their parents, religion remains a powerful source of beliefs, moral claims, and cultural practices. Religions still profoundly influence our contemporary world. I have yet to find a definition of the word religion that works well on a personal level. I have better luck trying to describe what religion is for. That is the purpose of all religion. One answer was offered more than a century ago by the philosopher William James, who said that religion is what humans use to feel personally that they are at home within the universe. According to James, the purpose of religion is to help make us feel we have a place in this mysterious world. From its beginning, the human species has been inclined to feel somewhat estranged and alienated from the world around them. In ancient times, some of that sense of estrangement came from simple ignorance of the world that surrounded them, the sun and the stars, the rain and the cold, the mystery inherent in birth and death. Nearly every aspect of life left humans feeling helpless against powerful forces they could not understand. Initially, people developed religion to offer a sense of protection from the unknown. Religion said, in effect, you may not understand what is going on out there, but fear not. You are still an important part of the universe, and there is a place for you in the grand scheme of things. You belong here. So again, religion was designed to help people feel they belonged in the world, to make them feel at home. As centuries passed, many of the technical mysteries of nature were explained, and people no longer puzzled about things like hurricanes or diseases or life cycles. They may still be challenging, but they weren't the mysteries they once were. But even as science unlocked many mysteries of nature, such as exploring our solar system and the universe beyond, unlocking the mystery of the atom, building heavier than air machines that actually flew, discovering new medicines and vaccines, mapping the human genome, and linking everyone by computer, tablet, and cell phone. Even with the astounding advances of civilization that broke down so many barriers between human life and the world around us, still, the human sense of estrangement and alienation has remained. Alienation even became a label to describe life in the 20th century. Science fiction writer Robert A. Heinlein offered a direct quotation from Exodus. This is from the 1611 King James Version of the Bible, that summarized life in modern society. He titled his 1961 science fiction novel, Stranger in a Strange Land. That feeling gave rise to new philosophies like existentialism and new anxieties, emotional stresses, and disorders. We discovered that the cause of a sense of alienation was not just ignorance about the way the world works. That feeling of alienation, of being a stranger in a strange land, comes from something much deeper in the human psyche than mere ignorance. And in modern life, religion really serves the same purpose it did in ancient times. Not to offer superstitions that make it easier to cope with our ignorance, but rather to say to us now, as it said to others back then, you may feel helpless in this confusing modern world that changes so fast around you, but fear not. You are an important part of the universe, and there is a place for you in the grand scheme of things. You belong here. The purpose of religion now, as it was then, should be to help people feel at home in the universe. Many people thought that with the rise of science, religions would wither away. Since religions were developed to help people cope with the mysteries of nature they didn't understand, and with those mysteries solved, why would we need religion? So ironically enough, one great mystery of modern life is why religion hasn't disappeared in the scientific, industrial, and technological world we live in today. Where once it seemed that only one could be a Protestant, a Catholic, or a Jew, now the doors have opened so broadly, they seem to leave nothing out. Yoga and meditation coming from Hindu and Buddhist traditions are blending into our society. Reincarnation and mind over matter are no longer some esoteric fringe ideas. The vague term spirituality has captured the mainstream interest and in many ways has overtaken the marketplace, where once there were just religious denominations. Bookstores are filled more than ever with works on spirituality and religion. I dare say more popular than most books on science. The quest to feel at home in the universe is as strong now as it has ever been, undiminished by advances in modern science. Religion was not created to compensate for our ignorance about the ways of nature. Religion was created to help us feel we belong in a world we don't fully understand. In ancient days, that had primarily to do with the limitations of our scientific knowledge. In today's world, it has more to do with finding our place in a complex and constantly changing world. We've discovered that science cannot help us decide on questions of ethics or morals, or discern the difference between right and wrong. Science cannot supply us a sense of personal self-worth or assure us that we are living to our best potential. Science provides little help in overcoming feelings of alienation or estrangement. Those things that fill us with hope and confidence and purpose do not come from mere accumulated knowledge. They come from our relationships with the world we live in. Our yearning is the same yearning that people have had from the beginning of human history. The fundamental religious question then is how? How do we go about feeling ourselves to be at home in this universe? How do we feel comfortable with our place in the world and know that we belong here? It would be nice if there were a simple answer or roadmap to this goal, but there isn't. There are perhaps some clues that should attract our attention. One clue is from science, the other from theology. These clues come from decidedly different premises, but they seem to draw us to the same conclusion. First, a clue from science and Charles Darwin. Our common understanding of Darwin is fairly simple, that random genetic changes known as mutations appear in one generation and are passed on to new generations. Over the course of thousands of generations, those changes that contribute to the survival of a species are selected by evolution to continue. Those genetic changes that do not contribute to survival die out. In effect, the theory of evolution can be summarized by two concepts: random variation and natural selection. Our common concept of evolution is really that simple, and it turns out fairly accurate. We have accepted the process of evolution to be somewhat mechanical, that if we can know the effects of a genetic change, we can predict how it will evolve. In his seminal book, At Home in the Universe, however, Stuart Kauffman, a theoretical biologist, is not so sure it's that simple. Kauffman shows how evolution seems to respond to something more than mere natural selection of random mutations. He uses terms such as eukaryotic cells and autocatalytic sets to bolster his case, and that's where my eyes begin to gloss over. But there is little doubt that Kauffman's research is overwhelmingly peer-approved. His work is not scientifically controversial, though it is theoretically original. So what does this mean? Kauffman suggests that in addition to random variation and natural selection, evolution can be affected by something he calls self-organization and complexity. It is, he says, in the nature of any living organism to arrange itself into effective and meaningful form. I'll read that again. It is, he says, in the nature of any living organism to arrange itself into effective and meaningful form. It is not just evolutionary selection that guides the nature of every living being. There is an inherent striving almost to develop more effectively. Evolution relies on this inherent self-organization to work effectively. Variation and natural selection by themselves aren't sufficient to explain how life evolves. You and I are the products of millions of different beings if mutations had accidentally been different than they are. Our replacements might have had eyes in the back of their heads, like many mothers actually have. And they could have flipped their wings and flown. But the accident of mutation gave us human beings, we who get goofy if we don't have enough sleep, and who, most of us anyway, have to wear glasses when we turn 40. Our species is an accident of nature, or is it? By saying that variation and selection are not the only elements of evolutionary change, Kauffman suggests that we no longer must think of ourselves as being here by accident. In fact, the process of self-organization suggests that it is in our own nature that we move as a species in one direction rather than another. We are expected, not accidental. Since Darwin, biological science has tended to stress reductionism, meaning that everything we are is reducible to its chemical and biological parts. Human beings are enzymes and neurological systems, and ultimately atoms and electrons, just like everything else. Kauffman's theory of self-organization, though, says that it is in the nature of living systems that they are greater than their parts, something more than just a unique combination of atoms. The science of evolution is never entirely predictable. Again, what has this to do with human feeling at home in the universe? We are not machines brought about by accident and following some preordained path of genetically designed behavior. We are, in fact, part of the universe, and one crucial element of our universe is the quality of creativity. We share that quality, and it is within our natural power as humans to seek creative relationships with the world we live in. It is, after all, our home. The question remains, what can we do to achieve that, to be at home in the universe? Kaufman approaches this question with a very simple answer. To welcome, in fact, to seek out diversity in the world around us. He reaches this view as a biologist who can't help but be impressed with the results of biodiversity, the flowering of different species on the earth. How do we find our place in the universe? By seeking relationships with the diverse offerings of the human family. Diversity begets diversity, which drives the growth of complexity. To withdraw into our own isolated world, to retreat from the richness of different life in the world we encounter, is to deny the rightful place in the universe. Let me shift now to a theological perspective rather than a scientific one. Henry Nelson Wyman was the most famous proponent of theocentric naturalism, which suggests that evolution is a creative process where the result was greater than its components. He also taught that the evolution of human thought was the product of creative human interaction. Our ideas and value systems take monumental leaps simply because we interact with one another and share our thinking. From the infant who learns the difference between hot and cold, to the aging person who learns about the fragile nature of the human body, these learnings are all the product of creative interchange between a person and the environment. Creative in the sense that the learning is somehow greater than the mere facts. We therefore need diversity if we are to grow and mature. Creative interchange is how we come to feel we belong here in the world, that this is our home. And the broader and more diverse the creative interchange, the more deeply we feel that way. If religion is a human quest to feel at home in the universe, Wyman the theologian and Kaufman the biologist seem to identify the same insight. The path to feeling at home in life is by welcoming and celebrating the diversity of life experience. For both writers, the heart of the sacred is found in creative forces. In speaking of the concept of God, Kaufman said, "I want God to mean the vast, ceaseless creativity of the only universe." Wyman frequently discusses God as the process of creative interchange with the world around us. And again, for both, the key to discovering the sacred is through embracing the rich diversity of life. Let me put it this way. The path away from religion, the path of despair and estrangement in life, is the one that isolates us into a cocoon of our own ideas and values. The more rigid in our thoughts, the more we resist creative interchange, opening ourselves to others who are different, the more likely we will separate ourselves from the richness of life this world offers, and the more our sense of home eludes us. Creative, in which each welcomes and absorbs that understanding into a personal view. In this way, each expands and enriches the fullness of personal experience. However we engage in this creative interchange through diversity, it will, in time, help us find where we fit into the changing world around us, and therefore help us know for certain that this is indeed where we belong, our home in the universe. May it be so.